A few days ago, as I was writing the script, I stumbled across a YouTube channel by the name of Whimsy. My first impression of this channel was great. Another Mario 64 ARG channel. I mean, I had already grown sick and tired of watching these sort of videos. Mario 64 ARGs, ugh, there's just so many. I am sick to death of seeing the Wario apparition or whatever it's called. It's just so overdone. I mean, there was one great video years ago and that was all it needed to be. Not these terrible PNGs just put behind Mario's head that could be done in Photoshop in like 5 minutes, or some terrible green screen VHS overlay. Come on, I want something that is actually believable. Okay, anyways, I digress. This channel, Whimsy, has 6 story videos on their page, all adding up to just over an hour of footage. So I thought with you guys, I'd sit through a lot of it, because every video seemingly has an important message. Please note, I'm not going to be going through everything in these videos because I want you guys to watch them for yourselves in the description. The link to Whimsy's channel will be in the description so you can watch all of it. And granted, it would be kind of pointless me going through everything because my commentary and what I think is going to be different to what you will actually think if you watch it for yourself. It seems like everyone in the comments has their own sort of theories on what's going on. So yeah, I feel like me narrating or whatever over it is just doesn't really do it enough justice for what it actually is, or how it comes across to me and other people. Let's begin with Whimsy's first video, Cycle of Life, uploaded March 9th, 2025. The video starts off with Mario on top of a podium, with a light shining down on him. It's unclear to me if this is a window letting in light, or an artificial light, but I'm just going to assume that it's artificial. This is a brand new building that's not actually in Mario 64, but it's got a hexagon shape and seemingly is like a connection to the castle, because when you think about Mario 64, it's just a whole, the whole border is like a green hill. So anyways, as you can tell, it uses the old beta 1995 build. With this VHS recording, we can assume this is meant to be a recording from the mid-90s. The player seemingly knows their way around, but sometimes they appear confused, looking back to see if someone or something is looking at them. Something strange happens. Mario walks into the room with number 3 on it, implying that Mario needs 3 stars to enter the door. But here he is actually shown to have 0 stars. This could be a potential bug, or maybe it implies the player can actually enter rooms without the required star count, but cannot actually go into the paintings, which they don't even bother to attempt, so I don't know if that's true. The player then considers going into the basement, but then changes their mind and goes to the door to the back of the castle. And what you're about to see next is actually incredible. I cannot put into words how much of an upgrade this is from what we're used to seeing behind the castle, because this just feels so alive. The player finds 2 doors, one with the sun and one with the moon. The player chooses a night room, and is seemingly back to where they were, just the time of day has changed to nighttime. This is a huge upgrade already because Mario 64 doesn't have a day and night cycle. Sure, some maps are set during the day and then some at night, but now you actually have the option to choose the time of day, which is a huge upgrade. Let's see what happens next. The player enters a door to the new part of a castle, and this unsettling music starts to play. They turn to the right and enter a graveyard. There is a grave for Dan Bradford, a toad who passed away in 1989 at the age of 33. I looked the name up and found nothing, so this isn't a cruel joke by the developers or anything like that, just an actual piece of lore thrown out there. I mean, it's creepy to think that a Mario character has died, considering in the Mario franchise where you die and get another life. No, not this toad. This toad's dead. After some more walking, the player finds the castle again, but now it's night time. He enters and the castle looks like it's been emptied out, and the wallpaper has changed. The wallpaper has changed to a brick layout and it almost feels like a different time period. Unsure of what to do, the player ends the recording. So, what do I actually think is going on here? Something that became actually very apparent to me after watching this first episode is how eerily similar it is to the ARG Petscop. For those who don't know, Petscop is an ARG series found on YouTube that was made roughly 9 years ago? Jesus. 7 or 8 years ago, let's say 7 or 8 years ago. It's set in 1997 and was a fictional PlayStation game about the player going into new rooms and discovering dark secrets and new areas. However, this Mario 64 series doesn't have any jump scares. Actually, Petscop doesn't have any either, I don't think. I'd hardly consider this series a horror. However, what I find captivating about it is how consistent it all is. What these creators have done really feels like the modifications could have been part of the actual base game. And as I watched more and more, I became hooked, because it's all so visually appealing. And the OST is gorgeous, oh my god. But we'll get to that. 3 months and 10 days later, Sanctuary was uploaded. and the VHS quality is even worse this time. There isn't any evidence to say why it's worse for this particular episode, but I digress. The player enters the same 3-star room, and the painting has changed. I'm not sure if this is done on a different build of the game, or if the painting changes depending on what your star count is. The player enters the level and some fun music starts to play. There is a lighthouse that is apparently not meant to be climbed, but the player ignores and climbs anyway. He grabs a star and goes back into the castle, and now the staircase door leads to the Bowser level, which is interesting. The player enters the boss level. Now, when the music first played, I saw the level design and I was a bit annoyed. Like, why would they leave in this music for a seemingly normal level design? Why is the player still in the castle? But then the player leaves the castle and it goes to the Bowser part of the level, which made me happy, you know, it's more fitting in a way. Anyways, this level is very well designed. In fact, it reminds me of Super Mario Galaxy Bowser fight levels. Mario defeats Bowser, then goes back into the castle, and the player goes to the left of the corridor and it takes the player upstairs. So they seemingly switched the different rooms, probably just to throw you off. But look at this. Look how many paintings and new areas. I mean, this just seemingly goes on forever. Mario enters a room covered in vines and this music starts to play. I don't even know what I'm looking at. And the player seems just as confused as me. The player can now see outside of the front of the castle. The new spawn point and the original base game spawn point are to the right of Mario's head. The whole room seems poorly lit and I can't really figure out why. Mario enters another room and then he's back to where he first started. There isn't too much to say about this video other than the fact that the soundtrack is just gorgeous and the level design is brilliant. Everything feels just so intentional, and I also feel like the ending of the video alludes to the thing that I think is going on. But we'll get to that later. The nature below. July 8th, 2025. Oh, this doesn't appear creepy at all, that toad has no face. The player has a quick conversation with another toad actually alive. One thing I find very impressive is how close they get the dialogues to the actual base game's dialogue. Anyways, it feels like something or someone has been down here. Things are all over the place and the player goes to investigate. Liminal spaces? This isn't right. The player enters some huge garden area and feels devoid of all happiness. This is what makes me think of the grassy level from Petscop. Just look at how similar these two videos are in terms of atmosphere. I mean, I was just complimenting the dialogue, but this dialogue from this toad in here sounds creepy.
Remember this. Even in vast darkness, the light still wants to reach you. Safe travels.
The player leaves and the recording ends. This video is basically just telling me, well, the castle has expanded in good ways, but it's also become dark in some places too. Inner Castle, August 22nd, 2025. Now this video started off by giving me a headache, because the player goes to the back of the castle just by going around it, but now the castle is different to the first castle. What happened? Why doesn't it look like the previous design? Anyways, in this new building there are new levels to choose from. The player enters a level similar to Lethal Lava Land, just with a different design. The player gets a star, and then goes back to the castle. But then something strange happens. The back of the castle is now different, or perhaps this is just a new area. The player goes to that same area from episode 1, but then turns around, and eventually makes their way back to another new area, where there are toads playing cards and one toad stood up by his friends. Desolate. It's just like all of us, don't you think? This light, as far as I can tell, is always on. It's unknown how or why it's powered, or who put it here. Nevertheless, it keeps shining. The player enters another area of the castle and it's night time. I cannot see the future, but when I see the moon, it reminds me of the present. Such tremendous beauty in a sea of sorrow. With not much left to do, the player ends the recording. Now, we would not then see another video for nearly 6 months. However, this video is 22 minutes long, and it's actually the longest video they've uploaded. Abyss, February 6th, 2026. The video starts off with Mario sleeping, implying that the person who started the recording wasn't actually active on the console for at least a minute. Here we are presented with new info, that each door only opens at specific times. And here we are presented with a schedule. But what does this mean? Is there a day and night cycle? Does the time of day really change in this version of the game? Or does it pertain to real world time? But I don't think that's possible. Still, the player tries the sun door and it doesn't allow Mario to go through. So instead, he tries the night door. And it works. Now it's night time. And the player roams more of the castle and enters a level similar to Shifting Sandland. They enter the pyramid and the Hazy Maze Cave music starts playing. They grab the star and go back to the castle. And the player enters an odd looking level. There isn't any music. All we can hear is Mario's footsteps and a VHS tape. Is this the same garden that we saw earlier just in monochrome? He enters another room and all we hear is wind. There is a gated entrance to Monochrome City and the player can't get inside. The player attempts to jump outside the map but isn't successful. The level seems covered in fog and absent of all life. There is a sign saying "Not yet" with a small castle. The player attempts to jump across but dies, so he turns back. Take a moment to rest. The player jumps onto the bench and is teleported to a red-shifted version of seemingly the same location, but everything is also flipped. There is a sound of something collapsing in the background. The player leaves and enters an even darker area with no lighting whatsoever. The player doesn't appear to know this area very well, if at all. The player finds a star and is teleported back to the castle. This time, it's a modern castle, but it's still night time. There isn't any ambient sounds or music whatsoever. It also seems like everybody is gone. There is a sign. The player reads it. Hello again. I know this isn't your first time here, and you may be wondering why the world is twisting around you, but I can't answer that for now. However, I can tell you this. She's still looking for you. That may be hard for you to swallow given you've been stuck here running in circles for so long, but I assure you it's true. Given how fragmented your identity is currently, I'm not sure how much of this you can understand, but I just know if you're still in there, I have to try and guide you. There is a way out, and the pieces are in place for you. Good luck. The player leaves and then comes across a button. Beside it there is a sign. The player reads it. The switch before you holds great power. In the wake of pressing it, realities will collide and the walls shall fall inward. All that is unknown shall be known. There is a blank page and the final page just reads, "Be warned." But the player skips it very quickly. The player looks around, and I'm sure in this moment they feel like they're being watched. It feels like something's going to jump out, or in the corner of the screen something will appear. The player moves towards the button, but the video ends before we can see what happens next. So what is one to make of this video? The most important question is, who is placing these cryptic signs? Is it Toad? Are they directed towards Mario, or to the player? It seems to imply that Mario's mind, or possibly even the player's mind, is warped. Who is the woman that the signs are referring to? Peach? There is seemingly nothing about her in this story. Besides, there's distorted paintings and the iconic stained glass window of her. As of writing the script, there is only one more video, A World Beyond, uploaded April 13th, 2026. Let's watch this together. The player starts off inside the castle, walking around these very nice rooms, takes a look around, and he comes across a sign that reads, "My form renders it challenging to make sense of things. Perhaps there is a reason it must continue like this. To whoever reads this, I ask you seek me out." The next page has an ellipsis and one more page reads, "Please." Does this mean that the signs aren't directed to this player specifically recording? Or is this to anyone still in the castle? The player enters a door that has a peach painting above it. He can see her silhouette in the light, and then... he is transported to a blank room with tables and chairs, and a sign that reads, "Are you still there?" I can hear it too. The kicking and the screaming, binding, the unrelenting. I understand it all too well by now. Being trapped in a vessel like that takes its toll. I hope it helps to hear that it won't always be this way. You will become one with yourself again, as it was. Maybe then we can be together like we used to be. The player leaves the blank room, and then back to the castle. You were expecting a jump scare, weren't you? The player finds Peach's prized fish tank, gets the power to go through the glass, and enters a level. It has the same music as Hazy Maze Cave, just slowed down but seemingly pitched up ever so slightly. I mean, this map seems similar to Wet Dry World. The player grabs a star and goes back to the castle. So weird that the levels actually seem quite cool, but then the castle is just daunting. The player decides to jump through a picture of Peach, and suddenly the music becomes to a halt, almost as if to say, "You're not meant to be here, go back." The player is curious and decides to walk around though. And then, my favourite track of this entire series starts to play. Honestly, when I heard this for the first time, I was stunned. It's just so beautiful. The area itself is all galaxy themed and funny enough reminds me of Super Mario Galaxy, so I'm quite sentimental about it. Of course, the player roams all these really pretty areas. I mean, they're so well done honestly, because every room is captivating. Every room in this area is a mix of magenta, purple, pink and blue hues, and the gradient is very dreamlike. But for a while in the series, it doesn't evoke dread, just makes me euphoric. The player walks around some of these rooms, and they end up in a replica of the basement from the base game with this gradient still applied. Lethal Lava Land is now black and white. The player walks into a dome with new paintings, a very vibrant carpet, and then the player walks down the path. Looks behind themselves, and seemingly takes one last look. Then leaves the building. And the video ends. So as of writing this script, there is no more footage to cover, and I'm not sure if there are any more videos to come in the future. The more recent uploads ending comes across like a finale, but it doesn't really solve anything. If anything, leaves us with more questions than answers. So, what is actually happening in this series? Who is leaving these signs behind, and what's the story and the purpose of all of this? Originally, when I first watched the series, I thought this is meant to be a parody of The Truman Show. I feel like the ending is quite similar, when the player seemingly takes one last look before leaving forever. The player doesn't seemingly do anything in this entire series but play the levels, collect the stars, and roam around the castle. There is nothing erratic about the way that they act, or if anything, they're abnormally stoic. On occasion, they'll turn around like they're worried about being watched, but that's about it. There isn't a specific set date for this series, but we can assume it took place between 1995 and 1996. Not just because this isn't the final build of the game we all know today and love, but also because they're using a VCR to record VHS tapes that have been formatted to upload to YouTube. I don't think this is a VHS filter. If it is, it's done extremely well. The person who is responsible for the VHS format is Phil564, who has, funny enough, covered the Minecraft Lilypad series before, something that I'm actually quite familiar with myself. Another possible ending is that Mario has actually finally given in to his delusions. The signs imply his mind is warped. Maybe this is him letting go and giving into it. The signs could be actually written by Peach or Bowser, but it's really hard to say. Maybe the Toads, possibly, I'm not sure. The whole castle seems fine until Mario defeats Bowser. Things start moving into different places and the music becomes absent in locations. Furthermore, another possibility is that this isn't the end. I've just started writing the script as of writing the script, but I feel like I'm at a point where the series has finished, but it maybe hasn't, I don't know. After all, the ending of the last video, while euphoric, was quite vague and didn't provide much of an explanation. If you watch this series without thinking too deeply about it, it's a series about the player trying to desperately escape the castle. Things around him are changing against his will and he needs to get out. That could be the premise. Another possibility is that the character whose grave we saw quite early on is actually tied to the entire plot, but we don't actually know that yet. Perhaps they haunt the castle and that's why it's being distorted. There is zero implication that this isn't considered the base game from this setting. There is also zero implication that this is actually an ARG, rather a build made by Whimsy with his own creative storyline. I think that could be the case because I find it a little odd that he uploaded the OST to his channel, and then in the description clearly states that he is the creator, with all of his collaborators working on the textures and the soundtrack. Perhaps in the videos it's a random player and not himself playing the game. What really drew me to the series was the fact that I came across one of Whimsy's videos when it was late at night and I was tired. And the video I stumbled across coincidentally was the most dreamlike, that being A World Beyond, with Could Have Been playing in the background. I hadn't really stumbled across anything quite like this, and as I said, I've already sick to death of seeing multiple iterations of the Wario head floating towards the screen, especially when it's a lazily placed PNG, masked behind Mario's head for one singular frame. Of course, I wouldn't be doing this series any justice if I didn't mention the OST made by Leif Hijazi. I hope I'm not butchering that name. It's honestly so impressive that I feel like it could have been from the actual game. Obviously, a lot of the instruments are beyond the capabilities of an actual Nintendo 64. but still I do feel like they could have been from the base game. That's about it for this video. Like I said at the beginning, I deliberately didn't cover everything because I would like you guys to go and check out the channel below. I'll also be listing every person in the description of Wimsy's videos to fully credit everyone who has made this. I do expect to make a part 2 in the future if some more videos are uploaded. If you have any theories, let me know in the comments. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.